Okay, so Merav Shavit and this whole digital product empire she's built, right? Honestly, when I first started looking into it, I was like, online courses? Ugh, another one. Seems like everyone and their dog has a course these days.
Yeah, it's definitely a crowded market, that's for sure.
Right. But I have to say, digging into Shavit's stuff, it's clear she's not peddling some get-rich-quick scheme.
Oh, no, not at all.
She almost goes out of her way to say that digital products, especially courses, they're like the opposite of passive income.
Absolutely, and that's what's so refreshing about her approach, I think.
Yeah.
It's not just about churning out content, it's about, like, leading an opinion, building a movement. She even uses the word agenda, which I found kind of striking.
An agenda. Okay, now that's interesting. Tell me more about that.
So think about it. With AI tools like ChatGPT practically writing blog posts for us these days, just having information isn't enough.
Right.
Shavit's arguing that a digital product, if it's done right, it's really about the human element.
Okay.
The guidance, the community, that ongoing support that you're providing alongside the information.
So it's less about being a content creator and more about, like, becoming some kind of leader almost.
Exactly. Yeah, it's about building something sustainable that has real impact around what you know. And that's where her, what does she call them? Her 10 commandments of digital product success come in. And they're surprisingly tactical considering how big picture her whole philosophy is.
I am always up for a good numbered list.
Yep.
What stood out to you in those commandments?
Well, the first one is all about building an email list, which might seem a little old school in the age of TikTok and Instagram, right?
Totally. I feel like everyone's obsessed with going viral.
Right. But what Shavit highlights is the control you have with an email list.
Oh, okay.
Like social media algorithms change all the time.
All the time.
But your email list, that's your audience. They've already raised their hand and said, hey, I'm interested in what you have to say.
It's like having a direct line to your tribe no matter what crazy algorithm changes are thrown your way.
Exactly. And this actually ties directly into her second commandment. Consistent presence. You can't just launch your product and disappear. Think of it like tending a garden. You need to nurture those relationships. She calls this remarketing.
Remarketing. Okay, so it's not just about getting new people in the door. It's about, like, staying top of mind with the people who already like what you're doing.
Right, exactly. And what Shavit really emphasizes is that, especially now, people are just bombarded with information online.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to remind them that you exist, not in an annoying way, but by, you know...
By being genuinely valuable.
Yes. By providing value, staying connected.
But kind of like how, I don't know, maybe a shop will send you a discount code a few weeks after you've visited, but, like, in a more content-driven way.
Yes, exactly. And she even takes it a step further with her fourth commandment, which I thought was kind of brilliant. WhatsApp power.
WhatsApp. Seriously, I use that to message my family.
I know, right?
Use it to be, like, run a business.
It sounds crazy, but Shavit swears by it. Yeah. Like using WhatsApp groups for community support and direct communication with her students.
I never thought about it like that. What's so great about it, in her opinion?
Well, she says it creates a sense of intimacy and accessibility that you just don't get with these bigger platforms.
Right. It's like a direct line to the expert rather than just being one voice in a sea of comments on a Facebook post or whatever.
Exactly.
You're getting that personalized attention, which I imagine is super valuable when you are, you know, learning new skills, trying to build something for yourself.
Exactly. And, you know, this actually connects back to another one of her commandments that really stood out to me, which is her stance against, like, only using free marketing tactics.
Oh, yeah. She does not mince words on that one.
No, she does not.
It's like she's saying, look, if you're serious about your business, you've got to be willing to invest in it.
Yes. And we think about it in the context of everything else we've discussed. It's not even just about money, right?
No.
It's about investing your time, your energy, the resources to actually build something that's sustainable, that can make a real impact. And you can tell she's speaking from experience here. Like, she's seen firsthand what works in this digital world.
Yeah, it's one thing to preach about the power of digital products or whatever, but, like, she's living it,
right,
which gives her a lot of credibility.
Exactly. She's not just saying this because it sounds good. She's saying it because it's what she's seen work. And for someone listening who might be hesitant to, I don't know, spend money on Facebook ads or whatever it might be, especially when they're just starting out, I think her perspective is really valuable because it's coming from a place of experience, you know, not just hype.
Right. So it's less about chasing the latest marketing trends and more about, like, building that solid foundation for long-term growth.
Yeah.
Which actually, I don't know if you see this connection, it feels very aligned with her whole, like, loading an opinion philosophy. You can't lead if you're constantly scrambling to keep up, right?
That's a really interesting connection. And speaking of building a solid foundation, I think this is the perfect segue into Merav's, I don't know, kind of unique take on branding.
Oh, yeah. She had some intriguing ideas about that, didn't she?
Yeah.
It seemed to go against the usual advice of figure out your brand before you launch,
Absolutely, yeah. Let's unpack that a little bit.
So she's not about crafting the perfect brand image right out of the gate.
No, not at all. In fact, she argues that true branding, it's something that emerges over time. She says it takes 2 to 3 years.
Wow.
Through real-world interaction with your audience.
Interesting. So it's less about forcing a specific image and more about letting it kind of evolve organically as you actually build the business, connect with your people.
Exactly. It's about refining, not forcing. And, this is something that I think might be particularly reassuring for anyone listening who feels overwhelmed by that pressure to have everything perfectly figured out from day one.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Especially in the world of online business or whatever, it feels like everyone's presenting this super polished facade, and it can be intimidating to even think about putting yourself out there.
Right. And her approach kind of takes the pressure off a little bit. It's not about perfection. It's about starting where you are, learning as you go, and just allowing your brand to grow and change right alongside you.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. It's more human. It's like we're all constantly evolving as people.
Right.
So it makes sense that our businesses, our brands would too.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that because it actually ties back to what we were discussing earlier about her background as a musician.
Oh, yeah. I totally forgotten about that. How do you see that connection playing out?
Well, just think about how musicians develop their sound. It's not like they're, born knowing exactly what kind of music they're going to make for their entire career. They experiment, they collaborate, they evolve over time. And I feel like you see that same sensibility in her approach to branding.
Oh, that's so true. Yeah. It's like she approaches these digital products with an artist's mindset, not just a marketer's toolkit.
Exactly. And it's about bringing that, that creativity, that willingness to experiment to the world of digital products. And I think this brings us back to this whole idea of leading an opinion. Because ultimately your brand, it isn't just a logo or, a color palette.
Right.
It's the sum total of your experiences, your values, your unique perspective.
So after, diving deep into all of this, what would you say is the main takeaway for somebody like me or for anyone listening who's interested in checking out her work?
I think the biggest lesson here is that building a successful digital product, or honestly, a successful online business in general, it's about so much more than just having the best information or even the slickest marketing.
And it's about building a community, right?
Yeah.
Actually nurturing relationships, showing up consistently.
Exactly. It's about finding your voice, sharing your unique perspective, and being open to evolving along the way. It's about playing the long game, not chasing these quick wins.
It's about leading, not just creating.
Yes, exactly. And, one thing we didn't really touch on too much is how her work often speaks to, a desire for empowerment.
Yeah.
Especially for maybe people over 45. Okay.
Who are looking to kind of create a second act for themselves.
That's a really interesting point, yeah. It makes you wonder if even those of us who aren't necessarily starting from scratch could benefit from thinking about our expertise as a digital product with that same kind of focus on community and long-term value.
Right.
Could that be the key to unlocking a whole new chapter in our careers, regardless of our age or our background?
That is such a good question. And I think it's one that's worth, pondering. Maybe it's something that our listeners can explore a little bit further.